Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today I have an incredible Montana game to show you. This ship is old. It's been in the game for a very long time, yet I still find myself constantly coming back to it. It's one of my favorite battleships in the entire game. It's very vanilla, but it's also still incredibly powerful here. We're going to be brawling it out later in this game, as well as activating Halsey. This being arms race as well, there's some pretty nice buffs we can get ourselves on this ship. For now though, long range salvo into the carrier to start things off. We'll take it. We'll take a Citadel. But notice I'm playing rather passive to start with. I want to talk you through some of the decision making that goes on in a match like this. And to start with, we don't want to just clump up with our team all the time when there's a carrier. But we have to recognize if we do that, well, the carrier's probably going to come after us. So we have to be a little bit careful about our positioning, our angling, giving ourselves room to maneuver. And that's why we're so far back in spawn. I don't know why he dropped there. Perhaps he thought Montana's glacial rudder shift would result in me turning back into those, but I'll take it. I don't need to eat any damage there. It does mean, though, that we're rather far from this battle, and leading at range is kind of difficult with these shells. Most battleships have floaty shells. Montana certainly does at these really extreme ranges, 23, 24 kilometers away. We shouldn't really be expecting much damage here, at least on a Worcester. Perhaps into a GK or larger battleships, sure, but even then, it is very difficult. And obviously, we want to get a lot closer to this battle. But the real key is we can't be getting caught in crossfires. With a Montana, you do have an exposed Citadel. It's not very easy to hit a lot of the time. It's a waterline, but it's not like a GK where you have Turtleback, for example. So I really want to be careful about when I push, especially because our team is winning the other flank. It's so crucial to look at your minimap when you're playing any ship in this game, but in particular a battleship, because you have so much power at dealing with broadside ships, especially Montana, right? We don't have much overmatch. We need to be finding those broadsides. So I'm trying to help on a key ship like this Novosibirsk. It's long range, he turned away, so the shells go short, unfortunately. But our team is obviously going to be winning the other side, so we don't have to push here. And I just want to be close enough to support my couple teammates over here while not fully committing into this battle. That's going to be the real difficult balance to run when we're playing a ship like Montana on a flank like this. We want to be helping on those broadsides. Notice how most of the enemy team is actually angling to my teammates over on the 1, 2, 3 lines. It makes a lot of sense. It's giving us a ton of broadsides to shoot at. And we want to get closer to make use of those broadsides, obviously. But we ourselves might get caught broadside by this enemy GK. I did not expect him to push out so soon, and we get caught. So, do we take damage? Not really. In fact, we smashed the GK for 37,000. Yeah, poor GK, man. It is definitely in a tough spot these days, but that's the way with RNG. We obviously do value the increased accuracy that Montana gets over something like the Kerfers. So we're going to push back a little bit. We're not going to fully push in quite yet, hopefully taking out this GK. Gigantic superstructure. We do want to work on the targets that keep us most angled to the enemy team. Notice how we're angled to basically the entire enemy team, but just barely able to shoot our guns at that GK. I'm always looking for opportunities to point the most angled, most armored portion of my ship towards the vast majority of my team and focus on the guys on the flank is the idea here. Hoffman possibly coming in for a torpedo salvo at us. So again, thinking about just slowly retreating from this flank. It's a little bit awkward, I know. We're going to get into the brawl soon, don't you worry. But I wanted to really talk you through some of the patient plays that you do have to make these days. World of Warships is a passive game. It's much more passive than it was years ago. And if you want these really impactful results to really push and help your teammates in the late game, you do need to be alive for those later game scenarios where you can really impact the battle. So we're playing rather passive, I know. But that's just the reality. Wargaming, it's up to Wargaming at the end of the day to craft a meta that incentivizes you to push in. And Well, with the ships they've been releasing recently, looks like we're not going in that direction. Here come the torpedoes. Fortunately, we do just get out of the way of them. GK at 18 kilometers now. And oh my, another like 30k salvo into him at longer ranges. So Montana pretty good into Kerfers, I gotta say. These 406s are still absolutely amazing. You do not need 30 millimeters of overmatch to have a very powerful battleship these days. Obviously, it helps a ton to have that 30 mil overmatch, but Montana rewards positioning. That's the key with this one. It's going to be very tanky. It's going to take a while to kill, and these guns absolutely crush people's broadsides. Now we've turned in though. So Hoffman has pushed away from us. Hopefully that means there's no more torps coming in, and the cap zone has certainly appeared. And at this point, well, the points are pretty even. The actual ships are pretty even here. So it's time to make our push. Yoshino, very broadside here, 19 kilometers, slightly under lead. We'll still take a Citadel there. At this point, though, it is time to start making our push. This is where we can decide the result of this battle. No one has control over A yet, but we will start fighting for it. And now that we got some HP to tank a little bit, we're going to point our bow towards this Kremlin, towards this devastation, and focus on those cruisers, the radar cruisers, anything with high DPM that can really go after some of our guys that are stalling out the A cap here. And look at this flank that we're on. It is incredible, but it took us a long time to get here. And that's hard. It's hard to be patient. This is mostly talking to myself, to be honest with you, just letting you in on some critiquing of my own play. I always am not patient enough. I just never have the patience to do this. This is just a rare game where I happen to be patient at the start of the game. Usually I'm trying to force a play too early and I miss out on opportunities like this. And watching this back again, recording this video, it's amazing. Look at the broadsides. Look at our positioning. It's absolutely incredible. But it took so much patience to get here. And now that we're here, well, we can start winning this game for our team. They're up on points at this point, right? They're still up on points. We will finish off that Worcester. I know, broadside Yoshino, 11 kilometers. Sometimes you do have to focus down that low health target. Not too worried about the fire, just really going to heal through it. I think that's the other thing. We don't want to blow our damage controls too early here. We need to save that for really dire circumstances. And in this case, one fire is not a big deal. We may as well just pop a heal. We have some nice buffs though from Arms Race. As always in these Arms Race games, we do have to mention that. Nakamov coming back for us. I was hoping being around the Edgar would disincentivize him, and it did for a little bit, but he's back. We are probably the most alone. Actually, no, there's a Conqueror that's very alone, but he's not impacting the battle as much. We're very much the key focus for the enemy team here. And I have a choice to make. Do I try to angle to this Nakamov and go broadside onto the devastation, or do we eat this torpedo salvo, which is gonna hurt, but get more of our main guns online and continue to angle to these guys in front of us? It's a tough choice. That's where crossfires, these portable crossfires that carriers can set up whenever, are very, very difficult. Devastation is just gifting. Obviously, this Confederate from Halsey helping us out a ton. Not greeting for my rear guns on the Devastation, as Kremlin could possibly turn and hit us. We're taking a lot of damage, but we're dealing a lot of damage in return. Already up to 280, upwards of 300,000. We get to our next heal here, and Kremlin is going for the ram. As you know, I hate rams. I find the most interesting part of the game in these close quarter scenarios, and rams just cut that short. So I'm going to do my best to avoid it. Brawling it out here with this Kremlin. And notice, I want you to really pay attention to where my turrets are turning. I want my rear guns to be able to fire at the Kremlin once they're loaded, but I also want to be able to shoot this Hoffman in front of me and angle to these torpedoes. So we shoot the Hoffman, rear turrets are online for the Kremlin, and we're pretty well angled to these torps, but they are going to take us down. 4 kills, 318,000 damage. We would have died to these shells coming in, by the way, so it doesn't really matter that the carrier got us, or it would have been the Yamato. But an absolutely incredible push that does win us this game. The game was in the balance. It was a close game until we made our play and absolutely devastated the enemy team. I love games like this. They don't happen all that often, but I really had to share this one with you guys today because it is absolutely incredible. And patience is the key to this one. That doesn't mean you should just camp spawn all game, but it does mean you should be careful when you decide to push in, especially if you're like me and you lack that patience to really wait for those opportunities and you go in and die too early. Yeah, that devastation did gift us a lot of damage. I'll admit it. I'll admit it. And Montana really is just such a powerhouse of a battleship still. I'm so glad to get games like this every once in a while with a vanilla ship, right? One that does not have the box of gimmicks tossed at it like so many of the recent releases have been from Wargaming. Feels like they really are ramping up and accelerating some of the power creep and just the sheer number of gimmicks in this game. Montana, though, still got it. I will say, wouldn't mind a rudder shift buff on this ship. 22 seconds is kind of wild these days. Also, if we're here talking about Montana, but I know I just had an insane game and I'm talking about buffing Montana. But, you know, if I could, you know, let me dream a little bit, okay? Could we maybe make it an AA powerhouse? Like give it just monstrous AA. Maybe make it so AA mounts don't get permanently destroyed either. Things like that could be pretty cool. But here is the build that we're running on the Montana. Trying out some different things, specifically here with AA Defense and ASW Expert for that 40% consumable cooldown. I would not have got back to some of those heals in that Brawl nearly as quickly if I didn't have this skill. It's very, very powerful, especially on a Montana that has improved healing. It's not just a standard battleship heal. It's no super heal, but it heals a little bit more, and that is quite noticeable. And so getting 5 of them often is quite worthwhile. In this game, not so much, but I do find myself often using that. Obviously, Adrenaline Rush is incredible. Concealment is great to take, so 14-kilometer detect. Very standard tier 10 battleship conceal. No gimmick here where we're out spotting cruisers. It's just a standard vanilla battleship, and it works so well. It rewards you for playing well. Typically, it's going to reward you for finding those broadsides. I really like that. Gunfeeder is useful for those situations where you have to spam HE into some angled battleships. I try my best not to because to me it feels like I'm failing at positioning my ship if I have to resort to HE on bow-in battleships. However, I still will, it's 1 point, so I'll still take it as last resort, we'll say. On to equipment here. Definitely take the Special American Accuracy mod. It's so good. It's so powerful. 11% is crazy. Concealment, of course. I'm taking Propulsion mod for a bit better maneuverability. Montana is a bit of a brick. It certainly does have terrible rudder shift. And while you could take rudder mod, I find the extra maneuverability from prop mod makes the ship feel more nimble than rudder mod does. Personal preference, though, certainly. We're taking range, not because we necessarily use the range all the time, but those carrier snipes can happen, and if I'm particularly on and good with my aim that day, some of those dev strikes can happen cross maps. Not always, but they can happen, so I'm a little greedy for that. Even taking auxiliary armaments here, notice we didn't lose our main guns that often. They're relatively well armored. This is in the hope that my AA can stay alive and protect me. Although, yeah, I'm not gonna say it. We're not even gonna say it. Montana, battleship gameplay. A little bit explained here. I want to do more of these videos, especially when I get such incredible games like this. I do want to talk you through some of the thought process, some of the things that you could be incorporating into some of your games, rather than just showing you and leaving it up to your interpretation. I do want to pick out some of these key decisions that I'm making in some of these battles, and I hope you guys enjoyed kind of explaining some of the thought process more. This time in the Montana. But that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.